Well, tomorrow a team of scientists leave for a 7-day project to assess military munitions dumped off of Pearl Harbor nearly 70 years ago. The Department of Defense calls the area Hawaii 05, and it contains both conventional and chemical munitions.
In the 1940s, the military disposed of munitions in the waters surrounding Oahu. These are chemical munitions dumped in an area just south of Pearl Harbor, sitting in water 300 to 600 meters deep. Documented and tested in previous field missions by the University of Hawaii. On March 29th, scientists will return for a 5th and final field mission. Instead of using a submersible, they'll conduct their test using this piece of equipment, the university's ROVE, or remotely operated vehicle, to see how it compares with the submersibles used in the past.
When it finds something that it's interested in, it gets its arms and it pulls out a scoop and it scoops the sediment and it puts it back, puts the lid on, puts it in the basket.
Once samples are brought up in a container like this, a team from the Army's Edgewood Chemical Biological Center takes over. A handheld chemical agent detector and fixed instruments will monitor the ROVE, samples, and the air for blistering agents like mustard gas.
We'll then take the samples, basically prepare the samples for analysis. We'll do a wet chemistry extraction, and then we'll do all the analysis for chemical agents and their degradation products on board the ship.
The Army lab is outfitted with the equipment needed to do the tests on site.
We'll work around the clock to keep up with the sample throughput. So in this 1-week trip, we'll process over 200 samples in total, so it'll be a 24-hour operation while we're out at sea.
The question isn't if the munitions are leaking. Researchers have already discovered that on previous trips.
We see that there is mustard at the parts per billion level leaking into the sediments. When we go and we collect the animals that live right there, physically in contact with the munitions, no trace, so they're not being poisoned. So the scientific question, should we pick up these munitions in 600 meters of water? My opinion is no, we shouldn't.
Edward says that's because Mother Nature is doing a good job at taking apart the munitions in that area piece by piece with minimal effects. But the Army has the final say. This particular munitions assessment project has been funded by Hawaii's congressional delegation and the Department of Defense. UH is partnering with the U.S. Army and others on this final leg.